You're not scared, are you, princess? Those 6 words triggered a lifetime phobia of clowns. Every year, my family visited a nearby amusement park around Halloween, and, being the youngest, I was forced through the haunted houses since everyone else wanted to go through. My childhood mind couldn't comprehend that I was in no actual danger. In every haunted house, I stayed as close to my father as I could. I would hide my face in his jacket, not sparing a single peek toward the horrors that surrounded me. I remember my dad telling actors to leave me alone. I was only 5 years old. For the most part, they backed off. Who was cruel enough to intentionally scare a little kid? But the clowns weren't so kind. To this day, I don't know if my father let that clown scare me, or if he didn't see him sneaking up to whisper in my ear. Whichever it was, it happened, and the malicious words and mischievous laughter still echoes in my nightmares. Despite being forced through them, I don't hate haunted houses. I worked in several throughout high school and still enjoy them as an adult. I have to laugh. Every October, some guy tries to take me on a date to one, thinking he'll get to protect me. Joke's on him. I'm completely desensitized to jump scares, chainsaws, and whispers in my ear. On one particular date, he got so scared that he pushed me in front to protect him from a zombie. The only thing that can get me in a haunted house anymore are clowns. But the panic I feel when confronted with one is real, and I can't disassociate what's real from what's fake. I opt out of haunted houses that contain clowns, and have no shame in ducking out early when confronted halfway through. It's not worth it for me. With all the clown shit that was happening in the past few months, and with it coming dangerously close to home with several sightings in a nearby suburb, my anxiety was at an all-time high. I live in a relatively safe area, and I have a big dog that would attack anyone who tried to hurt me. I still found myself double and triple checking that every door and window was locked throughout the day, and checking even more at night. A perhaps strange way that I cope with real-life horror is immersing myself in fictional horror. If what's happening on the screen, in the story, or in the haunted house is worse than what I'm facing, then I know I'll be okay. It gives me a false sense of bravado, which is sometimes all that I need. The need for security is what led me to take my friend Sarah to her first haunted house a few weeks before Halloween. Wanting to give her the best and most genuine experience, we went on a cold night to a haunted forest about an hour away. It was pretty low budget, and all proceeds went to the county high school. We stood in line for about 45 minutes and ended up being the first in our group. While she freaked out a bit, I couldn't help but laugh. Going first in your first haunted house is an experience you'll never forget. Since this attraction was through the woods, we had guides at the front and back of the line to lead us along the barely visible path. Since scaring people where there are rocks and roots is a lawsuit just waiting to happen, the path itself was a safe zone, and the actors remained inside of buildings along the path. In the buildings, Sarah and I were the most picked on. I remember one actor tormenting our group by saying that he needed a human sacrifice in order for any of us to move on. He scanned the line and rested his eyes on me. He made some comment about how seldom young women are the first in line, and told me to step forward. Laughing, I stepped out and was not at all fazed by the strobe lights or the chainsaw that came at me. It was fun. It wasn't real. The lights came on, I was still alive, and resumed my place at the front of the line. Someone toward the back of the line joked that I was their fearless leader, and we all laughed. Our guides got us off the path several times, and we spent several minutes walking around in circles, trying to find some marker to tell us we were walking in the right direction. They weren't much help, but without the guides, I never could have led the group through the forest without getting lost at every turn. As we walked up to the different buildings, the guides would quickly walk through before letting us enter, or they'd run around to the side and wait for us at the exit. Once the last building was in sight, our guides abandoned us and told me to keep going and follow the directions of the actors. They then disappeared into the woods. I kept walking, playing my role as the fearless leader, and set off the motion detector that illuminated a sign atop the final building. Giggles Playhouse was scrawled in childlike print, and a caricature of a killer clown resided over us. I felt my pulse quicken, and my blood turn cold as my biggest fear approached us. A man dressed as a clown got up in my face and asked me my name. I was frozen. Sarah quickly yelled it out.
Emily.
He whispered with malevolence in his voice.
What a lovely name.
It hurt to breathe, and it felt like my legs had turned to lead. I kept repeating to myself that this isn't real, that they can't hurt me, this isn't real. Shaking terribly, I forced my legs to move in the direction of the building. Choking back tears, I ran through the building and made it out the back exit before the actor waiting could shut me in. I ignored his protests and refused to go back inside. Knowing that the path was a safe zone, I leaned against the building to wait for Sarah to come out. I could see the parking lot from where I rested and watched as a man dressed as a clown approached the path. Assuming he was an actor coming back from break, I did my best to ignore him. I looked down at my feet and listened to the group I abandoned screaming inside as the clowns danced around them. When I looked up again, the clown was 10 feet from me. I noticed a long knife in his hand, and the moonlight glistening against it set terror in my heart deeper than anything I had ever experienced. That wasn't a prop. It was real. This man had a real knife, a real weapon, and he was slowly moving toward me. I began screaming, which, in retrospect, didn't do much good, as I was at a haunted house and no one was going to pay attention to my screams, and scanned around me for something to protect myself with. About 5 feet from me, he stopped moving forward. Using the knife-wielding hand, he waved, smiled, and walked into the woods. As the screams died down and my group came out, I grabbed an actor and told him what had happened. The guy, barely out of high school, assured me that it was just an actor coming back from break, and that the knife definitely wasn't real. He promised to inform the owners that there was an actor scaring on the path, though, and apologized for the panic it induced. Shaking and unsatisfied, Sarah and I walked back to her car. She drove us home and didn't attempt to pry into my silence. As she dropped me off, she asked if I would be okay home alone. I smiled and said I'd be fine. I didn't see a point in scaring her anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the face of the clown and could hear the words.
You're not scared, are you, princess?
Ringing in my ears. I double, triple, and quadruple checked that every door and window to my house was locked. I turned on lights in every single room to make it appear that more people were home. Despite my fear, it was an uneventful night, followed by an uneventful week. I got back into real life and only thought about the knife-wielding clown at the end of the day when everything began to slow down. Toward the end of October, a few nights before Halloween, I was taking my dog for a walk. It was a nice night, and likely one of the last warm ones of the fall. I stated earlier that I live in a safe neighborhood, and I enjoy the silence of the night, so I never take my phone with me when I go out with my dog. I walked her through the entire neighborhood, stopping at every tree and mailbox to sniff and mark territory that isn't hers. As we turned the corner to get back onto the street I live on, my dog went berserk and pulled me halfway across the street before I could stop her. Drenched in the pale yellow porch light of a neighbor's house was a clown, brandishing a long knife in his hand. Without a word, he raised the hand holding the knife and waved to me. Not a second was wasted as I screamed and ran away. He didn't follow me. He didn't chase me or threaten me in any way. By the time the police showed up, he was gone. My neighbors were informed of what I saw, and the entire neighborhood held their children closer for the next few weeks. Police patrolled our area, but the clown was never seen again. I didn't feel safe that night, even with the police outside my house, so I called my older brother to stay with me. We sat up all night, and I confessed to him about the clown I saw at the haunted forest. I don't know if it was the same clown I saw down the street, but my gut tells me that it was. Andrew was confused by what I told him of the haunted house. He had gone just the week after me, and said there was no clown building. The actors had made a big deal about how they had given the clowns the boot. All we could come up with is that the actor I spoke to did pass on my story to the owners, and that the clown I saw in the path wasn't an actor like I had been assured. How easy it must have been for that man to dress up as a clown and make his way into an outdoor haunted house in the middle of nowhere. I had assumed he was an actor at first, and who wouldn't? The owners must have taken out the clown building to assure that if anyone else with malicious intent attempted to enter the haunted forest dressed as a clown, they would immediately be noticed and the police would be called. That idea scares me more than anything else, and it goes without saying that I will never go through a haunted forest again for as long as I live. I haven't encountered any more clowns since October. Not in my waking hours, at least. Every night, I'm tormented by nightmares, full of malicious laughter and whispered threats. I take my phone with me on nighttime walks with my dog and stay clear of any forests. Every time I close my eyes, I can see the knife-wielding clown coming toward me, and in the silence, I still hear the whisper.
You're not scared, are you, princess?